Hello again, whiskey friends. Thanks for joining, everybody. As much as we love putting together our top 10 lists at the end of the year of all these individual bottles we got to explore, ranking individual bottles actually doesn't tell the whole story of a year. What I noticed most in 2025 is there were specific brands throughout the year that kept me coming back at least once a month almost with some new release, some new bottle, some new single barrel. And while some of these brands were featured in my top 10, for other brands, it's more about the entire portfolio of work they were able to accomplish in 2025. So let's celebrate those brands here today and give them some good momentum going into 2026. So thank you for joining today, whiskey friend. Let's kick off the show. Now, I did have to cheat on this list a little bit as I was thinking through the premise of this video. It was going to be a top 5 list. But then when I did it, there was just 6 brands. And there were consistently 6 brands, and I couldn't get rid of any of these brands from the list. So it's just a top 6 list. Number 6, coming out of Memphis, Tennessee. This brand's age statements continue to get higher and higher, creeping up into the 7-year range. And not only did we have great experiences with their Tennessee whiskeys and their bourbons, they even released some amazing wheat whiskeys this year that are totally under the radar right now. And more people are going to be talking about those in 2026. And we are talking about Old Dominic. Now, of course, I spent quite a bit of time with Old Dominic because we had a barrel pick come out earlier this year. And this was one of my favorite barrel picks that we have ever done. But during the tasting, when we pick these, Clark over there at Old Dominic also gave us samples of wheat whiskeys. At the time, we thought, man, he's got a lot of potential. And by summer, when more and more single barrels were coming out, the Turks gave us a blind flight with a whole bunch of Old Dominic featuring all of their different mash bills, including the wheat whiskeys. We had no idea it was even wheat whiskey. It was just all absolutely delicious. And then later in the year, they then dropped the Old Dominic 8-year, really pushing those age statements. This is one of Kelsey's favorite bourbons of the entire year, too. If you haven't given Old Dominic a chance, I really recommend you go online, pick up one of their releases, and we will be back there in person in just a couple months to do some more single barrel selections. Number 5. This is a brand coming out of Michigan who consistently drops so many great whiskeys throughout the year that I've had to dedicate an entire shelf to just this single brand. There are currently 19 open bottles from this brand all around this bar area here. What was so fun about this brand is not only the consistency and the quality of the single barrels, but the escalating quality of the blends and the finishes. All of it culminating into one of my favorite bourbons of the year that will be in our Best of the Year tournament. So shout out to our friends over there at Evernor Spirits. This one is my favorite, the Arctic Spirit, but the Night Stalker is not that far behind. Also love the Spirit Walker series too. And then as mentioned before, some amazing single barrels. We had the opportunity to go there last May, pick 3 barrels ourselves. Man, that was quite a way to cap off the summer. And Dan and Sean were so amazing. They even let us pick an 18-year light whiskey. Shout out to Dusty Dan for making a little sticker here of Macho Jeff. But the cult-like following that this brand has been able to generate, it's definitely well-earned, and I can't wait to see their 2026 lineup. Number 4. This brand's actually coming out of Rhode Island, believe it or not. And they are bottling and blending some of my favorite releases, be it bourbons, ryes, Canadian whiskeys, wheated bourbons. Some of their barrels get aged in Florida. Others get finished into cigar blends and who knows what else. In 2025, we actually dropped 2 single barrels from this company as well. And I know most of you figured it out, but it's Copper and Cask. I got the Party Like It's 1999 in my hands right now. And I've already killed off my bottle of the Divine Dram. But add to the mix these different batches they do, such as the cigar blend whiskey that's a 20-year hazmat Canadian, finished in Armagnac and Port, the wheated bourbon that was batch 11. And just through happenstance, I happened to be in an area where some private batches of Copper and Cask get around the system and land in Party Source over in northern Kentucky, thus getting to enjoy a double oaked rye and an absolute killer bourbon rye blend. And the best part of Copper and Cask is always the price as well. Most of the ones I just showed you cost $59.99. I think the most expensive one was the 20-year Canadian, and that was only like $80 or $90. And if I go to the side here, you'll actually see all the Copper and Cask section. There's 12 open ones right there in that section. And you might notice a trend with this video where I keep mentioning single barrel connections mixed with these brands. And it might come across that I'm mentioning these brands because we did single barrels. But it's, of course, the opposite. We did single barrels because we love these brands so much. Number 3. This next brand has been really high on my radar now, gosh, the last 2 to 3 years. But what gets more exciting about this brand is that their releases keep getting better and better and better. One of the interesting but sad trends that can sometimes happen with a brand is that they release their best stuff first. Their oldest whiskeys, their best blends, throwing everything at the wall, making sure that can stick. And then over time, those batches can then go down in quality. Once they made a name for themselves, they get the distribution going. You never know what's going to happen. This brand is going the opposite angle. I entered the story somewhere around batch 4 of their bourbon product, got even more excited by the time we got to batch 8, and now batches 12 and 14 are some of my favorite releases the last couple months. But not only are their blended bourbon products amazing, also got into single barrels with different cask finishes, with a custom blend underneath there that they finished in all those finishing casks. So many amazing flavors, so much attention to detail, and I love breaking down these whiskeys and seeing what type of song that they're going to play. So here we are talking about K. Luke. Typically, at least when it comes to the bourbon products, this is going to be a blend of Kentucky bourbon and Indiana bourbon. But batch 12 is my favorite. Batch 14 is not too far behind. And keep an eye out soon because this is actually our next single barrel that's going to be dropping on Shared Pour. Back in October, we got to meet the owner and master blender, Jonathan Misano, where we picked a single barrel of bourbon finished in Sauternes casks that is just about to drop. This one is my favorite Sauternes finish of all time thus far. Yeah, I'm biased. And yes, I know this isn't quite out yet, but man, I already killed that preview bottle. But with K. Luke, it really is the quality of the blends that always sticks out to me. You can always expect this nice, rich, oily mouthfeel, consistent flavors across every aspect of the palate, and a great finish. All of which are going to have a variety and complexity of flavors. And you know those flavors are there not just from the happenstance of a single barrel, but because of the meticulous blending and art that went into them. Number 2. All right, we're going to pull our second Tennessee brand into the mix here. I find this brand to be utterly amazing, not just for what they accomplished last year in 2025, but really about the 5-year storyline that has been going on with this distillery as they completely transform the brand and transform what people think of their whiskey in general. Per the trend here, did have the opportunity back in September to go to this distillery in person for the first time in my life. Amazing grounds and so much history and heritage in every aspect of the experience as you walk around to what has to be the biggest distillery I've gotten to see in terms of pure production with my own eyes thus far. Not only are their Tennessee whiskeys continuing to be hitter single barrels, they keep adding to the age statements, having now the 10-year, the 12-year, and now the 14-year in their lineup. In addition to that, all those 9-year Coy Hill single barrels that dropped this year were utterly amazing. And we might have picked one a few months ago that should be coming out sometime soon. Jack Daniels takes a while. Oop, I just spoiled it. So yeah, we're talking about Jack Daniels. Man, here was another killer release, the Sweet Mash Bourbon. When we picked our single barrels of the Tennessee whiskey and a Coy Hill rye, it was the same weekend that they happened to be dropping these. So that was very, very lucky timing. This one is probably my favorite release of the year from Jack Daniels, even beyond the Jack Daniels 14 that I got to try at some bottle shares. But more so than any of the other heritage distilleries, I feel like Jack Daniels has found this way to keep the essence and heart of who they are consistent year after year. They don't let me down. They just keep expanding what they do, expanding how I think of them, giving personalities to all of these different rick houses now. Then to cap things off, they had that heritage release with the Toasted. And I know those can be hit or miss depending on the bottles that I got, but I got my brother-in-law one for the holiday, and oh my gosh, it was a total banger. So amazing job, Jack Daniels. Continue to show the other guys how to do it. Number 1. This is going to be the first true Kentucky distillery on this list. And I think this is a brand who people are going to talk about more and more, particularly in the next 3 years, as their older whiskeys continue to get bigger and bigger distributions. But not only did I get to enjoy a 10-year bourbon and a 10-year rye, they also released wheat whiskeys, various experimental ryes and bourbons. They began dropping single barrels with higher and higher age statements. And they even came out with a crazy release, blending corn whiskey, Balboa rye, malted rye, bourbons, all in one package. They just dropped a sherry finish malted rye towards the end of the year. And then news came out that they're actually going to do malted rye single barrels that are going to be 6 years in 2026, keeping that momentum going. So if you follow the channel, be no surprise to you that my favorite distillery of 2025 was New Riff out of Newport, Kentucky. If you aren't on the New Riff train, or if you fell off the last couple years, getting tired of the 4-year single barrels, get back on the train, because that train is about to go hyperspeed. So what do you think of this list? What brands were your top of the year? And what brands are you most excited about to see carry through to a successful 2026? Well, thank you for joining, Whiskey Friends. We will catch you on the next one. Goodbye, everybody.